Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and once again, on behalf of Potatoes South Africa, Doubles SA, I'd like to welcome you to today's very important event. It is the Potato State of the Nation Address. As I said, my name is Penny Libiani, and I'm going to be your program director for this morning. Before I tell you about all the things that you need to know, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I was born in Bushbuckridge, just outside of Nelspruit, but I trust you guys work in the farming community. You're unlike the people that I work with. They know the difference between Bushbuckridge and Nelspruit, that you have to go via White River has a view, then you're in Bushbuckridge. Because most people, when they think Mpumalanga, they think Nelspruit and the Kruger National Park, and that's the end. There's a whole world out there. I grew up in my grandmother and grandfather's piece of land, about 13 hectares. And when I got asked to come and be part of this, I literally went back in my head and became a little girl in my village, remembering when I was taught at school how you bring a half potato, put a bit of stick and plant it and grow some potatoes. So I'm very excited to meet each and every one of you. And welcome to today's event. And we're going to have a great time and get to understand the state of the potato address in our nation. So on behalf of the board, I'd like to welcome you, especially to the PSA board chairman, everyone who is here, the board members, and the PID chairman as well, who's also joining us, the marketing committee, producers of potatoes, who without you, we wouldn't have any of what we are enjoying on our tables in our houses. I'd like to also welcome members of the media, who I work in the media. I've been in radio and television for the last 30 years, almost. Don't ask me how old I am, but it's good enough. And retailers who are joining us, and the marketing agents and the industry stakeholders at large. We'll get to know the other important guests who are joining us a little bit later on. So, Potato South Africa, which is a non-profit company under the Companies Act. Their main objective, of course, is to build a viable potato industry in South Africa, and they operate in an industry association, and its structures represent a network of participating role players like yourselves who are here today. And for the members of the media, I'm sure you're here to discover more, those of you who don't work in the agricultural sector. 2020 was very interesting year for all of us as the world, as workers. We just came out of commemorating Workers' Day this past May. But more than anything else, we discovered our resilience as people. If we've got what it takes to survive this pandemic, if we're going to work together collectively to make our world a better place. And the impact was felt by everyone, including yourselves in the different capacities that you're in. But more than anything else, those of you who work in the potato producing industry. And we're going to learn more about that, how this grain that is so world-class and so impactful in so many ways has been able to survive this difficult time, not just keeping people at work, but also keeping us as a nation. I found out a lot of interesting facts. Actually, I kind of try to make an analogy of myself and potatoes after I read. I was like, shucks, potatoes really take a lot of disrespect. They give you chips, they give you, mashed potatoes, they bind things when you're cooking. And I was like, this vegetable has been disrespected. So I'm on social media. I know you guys some of you are farmers. If you're not on Twitter, so I went to Twitter to brag. On Twitter they have this thing every day where they're like, butternut is the vegetable that she thinks she is. And then they break down the things. And then today I was like, I'm a potato, y'all. How everyone says, she's so stylish, she can wear a potato sack and look great. So there I was in my closet trying to look for something that could look like a potato sack, and this is what I came up with. I mean, you agree that it's proper, eh? Yeah, you do, yeah. See, he approves. I mean, I could put on my wheelies and just walk in the farm like the good doctor who's going to be talking to us in a short while. But what I'm just trying to say is that figure of speeches that we've used over time have disrespected the potatoes, and I think this address is going to fix all of that. Do you all agree with me? Yeah, let's give a round of applause for the potato. So with that said and done, we're going to have our first meal, which is going to be served. So as we have the conversations and the speeches, so look out for the people from the restaurant will be coming through, bringing you servings for your enjoyment this morning. So don't be disturbed when that starts happening. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to call on my first speaker to come through, who I just met a bit earlier on. It's Farmer Braylene, and she was very precise that, you know, she works on time. And she was like, Penny, what's going on with the time? And I'm like, for a farmer, what do you do when it's not raining? Do you rush God like that? But here we are, and she's going to be chatting to us about food security. And I just thought that, you know, to let you on what she does. She's a champion, really, on food security throughout empowerment of farmers, especially women. She is a very passionate African woman. She's dedicated time to inspire and motivate African youth to engage in agriculture for many years, and she's been traveling the world to discuss issues such as sustainable agriculture, climate change, supporting women farmers as a dynamic and inspiring activist. And she is here to sort of like set the pace of what this conversation is going to be all about before we get to the main address a bit later on. And I'm looking forward to hearing from her about food security and the impact of the work that Potato South Africa does. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our speaker.
Right, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Oh, okay. I thought you had some potatoes for breakfast this morning, so you'll be having so much energy. Thank you very much. I would like to just start by thanking the organizers for the event and Potatoes South Africa and my fellow contemporaries, the farmers that are all here. I'm also a farmer, so I understand what it is to be like a farmer. And most importantly, I think I really would like to thank the media for coming, and I will explain why I'm excited to see them and what role they can play in addressing issues of food security and helping us get information across to where it's best needed. Without wasting a lot of time, I just want to start by passing my condolences to the families with the relatives that have succumbed to the COVID and those that are actually in hospital right now, wishing them a speedy recovery. And of course, through platforms like this, all hope is not lost. They can find something to do. But my deepest condolences to those that have succumbed to the COVID-19 virus. Right, okay. A lot has been said, thanks to our wonderful MC who's doing a wonderful work, and I'm happy to hear that you had 13 hectares, you had this. I get so excited when I hear stories like that, hey? So I think we need to push it even more so that we can... What I would have really wished was to have this event on the farm so that we're not in here, we're on the farm. My farm is actually just down the road from here. It's in Cullinan, in Pretoria East. So it would have been really nice to be actually on a potato farm or a farm or somewhere outside. I think it would be really nice. But this is a start. We can arrange all that for the future. Right, my name is Braylene Chitsunge, as has been said by a wonderful MC. I am actually a commercial farmer. I bought my farm in 2010 in Cullinan in Pretoria East, and the journey has not been easy. There are a lot of obstacles. I'm sure the farmers can say that, but I would like to speak from a farmer's perspective to say I've traveled the journey. Possibly I could label it as a lonely journey, But as always, and especially being a woman, you know what it's like to be a woman. You always find your way around. And especially women around land issues, men believe that women have no business owning land. They just believe that we need to just stay at home, go and work on the field, produce whatever you produce, and feed the family. But I can tell you now that a woman is a serious negotiator. I've seen a woman as a worker, as an organizer, as a manager, as an advocate, as a negotiator. That's what a woman is. So when the woman gets to the market, she gets the best price for her produce. A man, as long as it's enough for a bottle of lager, then it's okay, they'll let go. But trust me, women, we are very aggressive when it comes to farming. So I've had to break down all sorts of stereotypes to emerge as a serious contender in this industry, to be able to stand in front of you today and say, I'm a farmer. And if anybody wants to challenge me, they can challenge me. If you want to say how many bonsmaras and goodies you've got, I can tell you how many I've got. If you want to say how many Kalari red goats you've got, I can tell you. And I can tell you which ones are stud and which ones are registered in the association. So I can tell you that. So there is nothing that I do not know. I've traveled the journey. It took me 7 years to be recognized as a commercial farmer in the country. I've now been farming. This is my 11th year farming. It's a journey. It's beautiful. I'm enjoying the ride. But I really would like to see more representation of women, youth, youngsters, and everybody, because at the end of the day, we're all consumers of food. So just also, just to let you know, I also serve as your food security ambassador. So I'm the Pan-African Parliament, which is the legislative body of the African Union. So I am your food security ambassador. So I effectively, as I stand here, I'm a citizen of all 55 countries on the continent. So I'm here. So if any government members are not here, I'm here. If the consumers are not here, I'm here. If the agent of the market is not here, I'm here. If the farmer is not here, here's the farmer. So I'm here to represent everyone, and above all, anyone who carries what I've described. Because you like posh words, don't you? The stomach infrastructure. I'm here to represent all your stomachs is your caretaker, right? So respect me. Thank you very much, because otherwise you wouldn't get any food without me. Right. All right. So anyway, just to sum it up, I have been on symposiums, COP17, you name it. I've been to the Netherlands, I've been to Vietnam, Zero Hunger, 2030 goals, Zero Hunger, 2063 vision. I've been everywhere, the Malibu Declaration. I've traveled, and it's become a song. We've been talking about the same thing over and over again. So we all know what needs to be done. We've done all the research that we can possibly do. We've done everything, and guess what? We've got everything that it takes to be food secure, especially on the continent. We got the resources, we got the human capital. We're blessed with a wonderful land. But what is the problem? I've actually described ourselves as Africans on the continent as victims of our own success. Only two things are needed: organization and management. If we can all just organize ourselves, this is why I'm excited to be here, and this is the reason why I came here. This is organization. Let's organize ourselves. And then what do we do when we've organized ourselves? Let's manage ourselves. So organization and management, that's all it takes, nothing else. But right now, we are just as confused. This one is doing that one is doing that. We're working in silos. The government is there. The stomach infrastructures are there. This one is not happy with this was not happy with that. But you will not believe it. The government, they've got all the technology. They've got everything that it takes. They've done everything. But it's not getting to where it needs to get. So I have called to the government to say they need to establish hubs of facilitators that can explore all the policies and the financial instruments, and ensuring that the information gets to where it's needed. We're fortunate in this room, you and I. We are able to get here today, and we have afforded to get here today. But what about the people that are in the rural poor who are not able to even get bus fare or anything to be with us? How do we get them in and let them be part of this event? Hope is not lost. We've been talking about COVID-19. Remember, it's not the first thing that has hit us. We've had the cyclone. We've had the locust outbreak. We've had the foot and mouth. We've had a lot of pandemics. We've had lots of diseases and everything. But it's how do we get back, spring back, and move on and pick up the pieces, and let's stop feeling sorry for ourselves. Yes, people have lost jobs, but I'm sure the agricultural sector can actually turn that around. And I've just spoken to the acting DG. Unfortunately, he's not able to be here. He's in Parliament. But I will speak to him after this meeting. I think there's a lot more that now the agriculture sector, not just in South Africa, across the borders on the continent, that they have to play a very important role. You talk about people who have lost jobs, who have lost everything. But where are jobs? We've got the agriculture sector. If we all now say, right, they've lost jobs in this industry, that industry, let's close off all those, that's fine. And then let's push everybody towards the agriculture industry, and then let's scale up. Seems simple, eh? Not as simple as it comes across to be. There's a lot more that it takes to be a successful farmer. And we should come away with these words emerging. Anything comes, the tree emerges, everything emerges. So how long are we going to be emerging for? I keep saying to people, why do we keep saying emerging? Why do we keep saying emerging? We say smallholder farmer, but we're after the small hectarage now with maximum productivity. Let's push on those small hectares. It's worthwhile. But guess what? There is you, the commercial farmers, and all the commercial farmers out there in the other sectors that can play a very important role. And I appeal once again to government that there should be a lot of support diverted to the commercial farmer. And the commercial farmer, you have a duty or a responsibility, and I'm asking you, perhaps not even asking, I'm demanding and ordering to say, as a fellow farmer, there is an important role that we can play in addressing issues of food security. Let's have a discussion. Let the government come on board. Let the smallholder farmer come on board. And what should we create? Linkages. We need to create linkages. You're already set up with processing facility, logistics, pack houses, you name it. You have the know-how. But the smallholder farmer, they don't have those processing facilities. They don't have all those things. But now if we can now combine and then come to you and say, right, okay, I would like to invest in you. We want to push X amount there on your farm, and we want to set a training facility. And more importantly, we would like you to take care of these 200 farmers that are within your vicinity, your local community. Can you get them to scale up to be farmers? And what is it that is required by you to get them to be productive? What's that going to help with? A lot of things. You use the same seed, so you create a central seed bank. You've already got facilities which may need just a few touch-ups here and there. If they are touched up and then expanded, then we can get going. Why am I saying that? The smallholder farmer wants to go to the bank today to get a loan or to any financial instrument. They cannot get funding. I've got a piece of paper that will say, right to use. But now if it's right to use, I can't go to the bank and say, oh, I've got a right to use this piece of land. The bank will just shut the door on me. And then we start getting angry. Why is the bank shutting the door? Why should they open the door? It's their money. They need to know that they're investing. Because remember, it's a business for them. If you go there and convince them, I'm a smallholder farmer. Mr. Jones trained me. And Mr. Jones can vouch for me that I can be very productive, I can do this, I can do that. Institutions are happy to speak to people that have attained the knowledge and where they know that they can do something. Right now, no collateral, no insurance that can be taken by a smallholder farmer is very expensive. I've taken insurance. I was paying 275,000 rands for insurance to insure my livestock. My goats are insured. They're special goats. I own goats that weigh about 110, 115 kgs. My goats are worth more money than cows. I bought South Africa's the second most prized goat for 45,000. Rambo 3 belongs to me. And he's a beautiful goat. I just got to deal with them. I give you rent-free accommodation. I give you water to drink. You get all the grass that you want, only on one condition, my animals. So I have meetings with them. You produce. If you don't produce, into the pot, to the market, I will not hesitate. I will take you there very happily. You can look as lovely as you like, but if I don't get a kid goat, if you're a goat, if I don't get a cow, if I don't get a litter of piglets, if I don't get ducklings, if I don't get the quails that I'm farming with, then I'm sorry. We have to part ways because you can't afford to have rent-free accommodation on my farm and you're not productive. So those things, I only know too well about it because I'm a farmer, I've walked the journey, it has not been easy, so I know what works and I certainly know what will not work. That I know. So no one can come and tell me to say, do this, do that. I planted 55 hectares of maize. 100% germination rate. And then I looked at my white brothers, I see they bring this little spraying. I thought, that sounds good. So is that how it's done? So I also hired one. 15 minutes, 90,000 bucks. Fine. Right. Woo, we're getting there. It looked beautiful. Very, very nice. I remember one of the farmers, he said, it's a little bit too late to be planting now maize, but okay, it's looking good. Then 6 weeks before getting there where I'm now getting excited, the rain just stopped. Then why did I start to see the maize stressing? 55 hectares, even a bottle of water to say, let me go and save 2 cobs, it doesn't work. And guess who had been in there? The bush pigs. They had helped themselves to 5 hectares there, 10 hectares there, cleverly so. So when you're looking on the outside, everything looks really good. But when you then get inside, there are the losses. I lost 436,037 cents, yeah? 436,000 rands and 37 cents. That I'll never forget. Even up to now, you can pay me to plant maize, I won't. Unless if I've got a pivot, fine, I will. So you learn also from mistakes. So on dry land, I will not do it. I'll let my neighbor do it for me. I won't do it. So there are things that you can also learn where you say, that 436,037 cents, it hurts. That's why I still remember. And this is I'm talking about 6-7 years ago, hey? But I still remember it very well. But why am I a successful farmer? I'm a successful farmer because when I bought my farm, I got my farm mapped. And that's something that I'll be appealing to the government to say that they should play a role as well, because it was not cheap to map my farm. So I got my whole entire farm mapped, so I know everything that I can grow every 10 meters. I had soil analyticals done, so I know what I need to broadcast with, if it's too acidic, how much lime to put, and I got that done earlier on when I bought the farm. And I was so happy that I did it because I was better informed. So at least I know that I need to plant this, I need to do this. But I paid 123,000 rands for that. So mapping of it is also very expensive. And right now we can say, I want to farm. Yes, I want to farm. But remember, we've got mining activities that have come on board. So the mining contaminants and all those things that have come, also heavy metals that will affect our productivity on the ground. And also, I would say, I want to grow broccoli. But perhaps your area is not the best suitable area for broccoli. I want to do potatoes. Perhaps it's not the best area for potatoes. But now guess what? We talk about technology. So there's no area that is not best for anything. You play with it, you manipulate it until it's best to do it. So basically, you can pretty much play with anything and you can grow a potato anywhere, wherever you are. And it's so versatile. It's easier to have, technology. We're farmers. Got it? I don't know if they... You see, I'm a farmer, hey? I'm not used to these microphones. I say, hey! We shout on the back of the tractor. This doesn't work when you're plowing, hey? There's so much noise, so you can't have microphones. So I was just saying, a potato, I'm so excited, and I think it's something that we need to like really advocate and push for, because your potato, you got your rice, you got your maize, then the potatoes, you got your millies, for your pap. But if you look at it all, the potato, if you have the know-how, is the easiest to actually grow. But you've got to have the know-how. So I'm just telling you all these real life experiences so that you can know that I'm still standing here. I'm still alive. I'm even saying I'm a successful farmer because hope is not lost. Yes, I lost that money, I lost that. But so what? I don't give up. And more importantly, as a woman, you never ever give up. You keep going and you keep going. You try something else. You talk to others. I was talking to others. My role as an ambassador, I resumed that in 2017. So before that, I was just rolling like everybody else. And I was going neighbor to neighbor. I recall one day when I bought a little Massey Ferguson. I now got a John Deere 4446, yeah? When I bought a Massey Ferguson, when I wanted to work on it, my neighbor, Umpiti, he saw rest in peace, he's late now. He comes to the farm, and I said, I want to know how to work the land. Fine. He says, okay, fine. This is how you attach the implement, and this is what you do, and then hop on. So I hopped on. So he's standing there with his sun hat and his crossbows, and I remember him, and he's standing there. Then I started driving my little Massey Ferguson. Wow, that feeling. Then he said, hey, yo. So I turned back. Then I saw the look on his face, and I thought, I must be doing something so great. So I was going, and I kept turning, kept looking back. I got to the end, I got back, and he says, very good. That is what a farmer does. And I'm like, You always check to see if your implement is still attached. I was not looking at the implement, I was looking at him. So I learned that you can't just attach something on your tractor and not look at it. You need to check that it's there. So that's one thing that I learned. So some of these things we need to learn from others that have been in the business for the longest of times. So my message is very clear to everyone today. And once again, I cannot thank you enough in addressing issues of food security in South Africa and on the continent. It's very, very important as farmers, but more importantly, to work together collectively so that we can all achieve the one goal. There is food security and there's food sovereignty. I want you to understand those two things, food sovereignty and food security. If we've got academias, they'll be able to translate to us to say what sovereignty is if someone is not aware of it, but there's food sovereignty and food security. And remember, we don't just talk about food security, it's got to have all the micronutrients in it so that we stop this trend of stunting, kwashiorkor. I don't even want to hear that word. It must be taken out of the dictionary. Stunting, kwashiorkor, malnutrition, those things have to come out. I was checking the statistics, 3,430 births per day in South Africa. If you can work out that, you can see how much that is per year. So we're close to 1 million. We're close to 1 million births. Yes, we're having deaths as well, but if you look at a lot of those deaths, they're not really supposed to be happening if we address issues of nutrition and everything. So I think we need to be the happiest people to get everybody and say there is hope for all this. And as we leave here today, as we go wherever we go, let's just go with a bit of drive to say we can do a lot more. And there's so much research that has been done, which can be, I think I'm being told, how many more minutes? Done. Okay. You see, never give a mic to the farmer, because then that's the worst mistake you can do. Right, okay. Just anyway, to sum it up, as your food security ambassador, I was talking from a farmer's perspective, as your food security ambassador, I'm here, my role is I'm your food security ambassador. So please take my numbers, I'm here to work with you. Remember, I serve for the whole continent, so if you need to then do continental trades and all that, I'm here to assist with anything that you need. And once again, I just would like to thank you so much and appeal to the government once again that there is a bigger role for the government to play and to ensure that we achieve food sovereignty. And there's no better time to do it now. Bring the young ones on board. There's a lot more that needs to be learned as well in the whole process. Vision 2063, the 5-year-old today will be our age group. We don't want them to sit in a room like this and have the same discussion we have today to do. Then we will be a very selfish people. We are only in this situation today because the past never prepared us to be entrepreneur in agriculture. So please, I appeal to all of you farmers. I thank you very much for the role that you're doing and for everything you're doing. And remember, I did say the media. I don't want to get off this podium without addressing the media. I can even go down on my knees and beg you to say, we really need you. I hosted 150 journalists on my farm from IFAJ, International Federation of Agriculture Journalists. There was only one African journalist from Kenya. So we need to also start getting into agriculture journalism. We want you to come out with us. We want you to take the messages across. As you know, the rural poor, we have issues of network, infrastructure, and all those things that we'll also be addressing with the government. But you play a very important role for us. So if you take positive messages, we would really appreciate it, because all the time we see famine, hungry kids, hungry everything. We would like to start to see more of like, wow! Then that gives everyone hope. And who wouldn't want to be a farmer? Everybody will want to be a farmer. So I'm appealing to you, media, that please just help us in addressing issues of food security. From my office as your ambassador of food security. Once again, I thank you so much, and I thank the organizers. And this is a wonderful platform. It must live forever. I'm here to be part of it. I think we should actually start a movement that it goes beyond these walls to say, what is it that's needed? What is it that we can do? So that the next event we have, we can look back and say, right, we sat in that room, but this is what we've achieved. I'm here, and I want to take you to on that challenge that I'm here. So just say to me, look, Madam Ambassador, this is what we need. And thank you very much. I thank you once again. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Give a round of applause. Okay, so I'm dabbling with my next career. I'm in the media, as I said. I've been in the media for as long as I have, and I told you that my grandmother and grandfather had a 13-hectare land, and then I've learned today that farmers talk and they speak loud. I think it's in. And after you, Madam Ambassador, I definitely think I'm going to be a perfect fit in the farming, and I'll help you with the media people. Just make me an ambassador for Potato SA, then we have a done deal. We'll make potatoes cool and farming even more cooler. Okay, so give a round of applause. We learned about collaborations, organization and management, sharing information in the key learnings and the cooperatives. Thank you for that. And I'm sure that our media people will be able to grab some of that and run with that information. So we're also going to have a second serving of our food. I'd like once again to acknowledge the PSA board chairman, J.F. van der Merwe, PID chairman, Ernest Azel, as well as the marketing committee members who are here, Rudy Henlin, as well this morning. As I think she has already said, Dr. Braylin Chitunge, that acknowledge some members of the government who are supposed to be here with us, but they're not joining us this morning. But I'm sure they'll be getting the messages based on the conversation that we're having. So this is the state of the potato industry address, aka Sophia. That's our hashtag if you guys are on Twitter. Some say Sophia. And again, I feel like, a potato is like a girl who knows her worth. So don't feel bad if I keep referring to the potato as a she this morning. I mean, she's large and she's in charge and she's very rooted. And precisely, I think, an African woman, so to say, in this continent. So without wasting further time, I'm going to call on my second speaker. And our second speaker is going to be talking to us about the economics of agriculture. On the media front, when they report on GDP and, performances per quarter, it's always, and the agricultural department, sector has done so well and has done this. And you see the other industries always are envious of, of what's happening in the agricultural, sector. But when there's challenges, obviously, in the sector as well, we all feel it. Looking for ginger was quite a problem during COVID. I don't know about you guys. We struggled looking for ginger. And this avocado that they sell us, I think I have to plant an avocado tree in Joburg. It's not working. I speak to my cousins to send through. It becomes a thing. And, we used to disrespect potatoes and pawpaws when we were in the village. Now you can't even afford the stuff because you need it in everything. Skin, smoothie, it's a whole thing that's going on out there with our food. So let's get to find out how that impacts our economics. And I'm going to call on Thabi Nkosi to come and address us in regards to that. And Thabi Nkosi is an experienced agricultural economist, an investor, and a founding partner of African Green Alpha, a South African agribusiness private equity fund. She's the chairperson of a Mintiro Foundation. Mintiro means our works. That's what it means in Tsonga. I'm just making sure that you guys understand. And they're an investment vehicle set up by the Coca-Cola bottlers of Southern Africa, to provide growth, capital to emerging farmers. And prior to that, co-founding African Green Alpha, Thabi was an executive director at Agri Operations and Grow Capital Holdings. She's held several roles in the agricultural sector, including agribusiness investment, specialist in public investment, cooperation and lead economist at Agri SA, and she's also a TEDx speaker and served as the deputy chairperson and standing committee member of trade and economic policy for BUSA, Business Unity South Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Thabi Nkosi.
Good morning, everyone. My throat gets a bit dry, so I'm hoping my water could stay here. It's good to be here. Good to see everybody. Good to see some familiar faces. I'll be discussing just a few aspects that I personally have found interesting about the agricultural economy in this country, and I think these are things as potato producers that might be relevant in terms of trying to mitigate risks in your business and trying to grow your businesses in this very interesting climate that we're operating in. So before I begin, the theme that I was told that today's theme was When Hope Whispers. And I found this quite intriguing, not because of the theme itself. I definitely agree we need to be optimistic. I was quite intrigued about why you would want to speak about optimism and then invite an economist to come and speak. It's like we are not known for our chirpiness and optimism. I mean, I'll tell you that. But so I thought it's like inviting the Grim Reaper to your 5-year-old's party. But I'm going to try. So I'm a good sport. I've tried to add a positive twist to the grim message that I have. And so let's see how we go along. So when I looked at what hope means, an analogy came to my mind, and that analogy is about light at the end of the tunnel. So I look at the past year as a sector and as the country, with us having gone through a very challenging time. We were largely operating in the dark, and now we have answers to some of the questions that we had this time last year. We're able to see a glimmer of hope and a little bit of light. But much like the picture that I'm showing on the screen, it is not my expectation that as we come out of that uncertainty, the path is clear. I think there are a lot of shrubs, a lot of uncertainty that we're still going to need to navigate. And how we navigate this will determine how it is that we perform in the next year or two. So this presentation will look at, first of all, where are we currently? What is the status quo? What are we dealing with? Secondly, it will talk about what are these shrubs. So basically answering the question of what has changed. So what happened while we were still in the tunnel, the world was still going on, and are there any changes that we need to be cognizant of? And then I'll close off with what we can expect over the short to medium term, some very practical things that I believe will impact the potato industry, particularly as we move into a very short space, say about a year or a few months. So first of all, where are we? And I'm going to start with the obvious. This is a figure that we all know as people in the sector, the good story about agriculture over the last year, the fact that we were basically the only sector that showed any kind of positive growth over 2020. A lot of this was, of course, base effects, given that we did come off a very, very challenging 2019. But to that, I do say that there were some very strong fundamental factors that drove agricultural production forward. And those include things like we had favorable weather, for instance. We also had a very weak rand that supported the export industries. This slide over here really speaks to those people that are what I would consider the haters, who say, for instance, well, you know, agriculture performed well, but it's a fluke. It was a once-off. The weather was great. You guys got lucky. And basically what this figure shows is that it wasn't a lucky streak. If you look at what has happened over the past 10 years, from 2010 to 2020, agricultural production has been growing consistently. What these numbers show is a 5-year moving average and shows that, on average, over the last 10 years, production has grown by about 19%. And of course, we do see some variation within the different subsectors, and I'll talk to that a bit later about what it is that is driving this. But what we show in that figure, in the table in the green, is that even though production has grown by 19%, the gross value of production in real terms has grown by 44%. So that means that prices have been on the side, on farmers' side. That means that we've gotten good commodity prices. That means people are generally making money relative to what it is that we're producing. And I know that this is controversial because I'm not speaking to the cost base at this point. So we're just looking at revenue. And I do know that there are some different challenges when it comes to the cost base. But basically looking at what has gone into the pockets of farmers over the last 10 years, the story is a very good one. When we look at what has happened with export performance, particularly over the last year, we saw record-breaking numbers in a number of different subsectors within the sector. People like the citrus industry, macadamia industries, really showing strong performance, and also showing a very significant level of resilience relative to their peers. This story over here, I like to discuss because when you listen to policymakers, particularly South African policymakers, and the growth story that they tell, their growth story is often one focusing on exports. It talks about South Africa's need to reach export markets, to expand beyond its borders, but not just looking at general export markets. Our government has really been focusing on expanding access to the rest of Africa. Oh, I'm sorry, what happened? Okay, maybe it just slept. But basically, we've been talking about, looking at the rest of Africa, looking into Asia, and what we see here is that primarily our exports have gone into the countries that we've been targeting. So this is a good story. It shows that we said we wanted to target Africa, and we're starting to see Africa play a greater role in our export volumes. The same for Asia as well. And I'll come to what I think about the potato industry in terms of these markets later. So when we look at this, we see that generally what the experts in the sector and thought leaders like the Bureau for Food and Agricultural Policy and academics, what they expect is a great long-term outlook for the agricultural sector. So what they're saying is that despite all the challenges that we've had, this is largely what we expect to pan out over the next 10 years. And if you look at this sector, you can already start to draw some inferences around what it is that the experts expect the environment to look like. So for instance, if you look at the blue line, you can see that they are predicting that animal products are going to grow aggressively over the next 10 years. And that tells us a few things. That tells us that they expect household incomes to increase because you can only buy meat when you have a whole lot of money. They expect populations to increase. And then they also expect that to have some sort of influence on field crops, which is that bottom line. But interestingly, that uptick on field crops is not what you would expect in line with the increase in the production of animal products. So when you look at a graph like this, it's very important to kind of look at what is sitting behind these numbers and what does that mean for my particular area. So because we can see that they do expect quite an optimistic growth story on the consumer side, we can already start to say, well, perhaps potato consumption could benefit from this long-term growth as well. They are looking at horticulture growing, which then starts to tell us that perhaps the experts are expecting that the rand might depreciate a little bit further going forward, which is great for exporters, but might not be a good story if you are an importer of inputs. So given all of this, it is very unsurprising that when we look at confidence within the agribusiness sector, it is at highs that we last saw in 2014. There have been a number of different good news stories that have created the perfect good news storm in the sector, and optimism is high. So if you look at the agribusiness index, we see that it is the highest that it's been since 2014. Agribusiness executives are saying, well, they believe that there is growth coming in the next year. This is largely driven by the fact that we're expecting good rains, which we've already started to see. Farmers have been expanding their production area, but we've also started seeing people, start to venture into new commodities. So people are starting to take risks that they haven't necessarily taken. Oh. All right, so it's a good story. But despite the fact that we are living in this euphoria right now, I am always cautious about not being realistic about what is coming. So it is definitely a good news story, but we wouldn't be farmers if we didn't expect some sort of downside, right? And that's what I really want to talk about the things that have changed in the operating environment and things that might be a little bit of a thorn in our neck. So this is what I think the future looks like. I spoke to the tunnel earlier on about light at the end of the tunnel. I'm anticipating a whole lot of tunnels going forward. I'm anticipating we come out of this one, and if we're not sufficiently prepared and we're not able to read the data and the mood correctly, we might end up in any one of those tunnels and continue on a cycle of just reactionary behavior where we don't necessarily take the time to see what exactly were the implications of, for instance, COVID and the reactions that governments took. We saw governments, for instance, take measures that are meant for long-term interventions to solve a short-term problem, which then tells us that there are going to be long-term implications to some of the things that they're doing. So the world has certainly changed. It's important that we understand what the changes are to avoid ourselves finding ourselves in these kind of dark tunnels going forward. So the first thing that's changed, especially after COVID, is that we've seen countries around the world start to strengthen their food and agricultural markets. So people are already ready for the next pandemic. The crisis really revealed a lot of vulnerabilities that we didn't know we had, vulnerabilities not just with production, but vulnerabilities in the supply chain and logistics and distribution. So these are things that people are starting to incorporate more and more. These are not black swan events anymore, and people are already starting to incorporate that not only just into their policy, but also at the business level as well. And that speaks to increasing domestic production. So what people saw was that in countries that were primarily net importers of their staple food supplies, they started to worry about food insecurity. When harbors were a little bit full, or containers, there was a little bit of a problem, people started shutting down their borders. It makes you really question your food security. So you really start to see what it is that you can do to bring production domestically. And so this is actually quite relevant for African agriculture, because what we saw in a number of different African countries was that this is the year that they started to really, really prioritize domestic production. And I'm saying this because I've read a few papers where we talk as potato producers about the need to look at new African markets, etc. But we cannot assume that African markets are just sitting there stagnant and waiting for us to fill their domestic needs. They are growing too. They are increasing production. What you see there is, in fact, that the rest of Africa is increasing agricultural production at a much faster rate than South Africa. So by the time that you are ready to supply to the rest of the continent, there is so much competition out there, and I think it is a very, very dangerous assumption to assume that the rest of the continent is not trying to fill their own domestic needs, and that's something that you need to consider. The other thing is about the fact that people are now disillusioned with policy, right? You expect policy to really come in when times are tough. So we can plan, but the effect of those plans needs to be evident when things are tough. And what happened with the crisis is that policy let us down. People are disillusioned. People are saying, well, we thought globalization was the way, but now people are closing their borders, why don't we? So you're starting to get people question this and start to question industrialization, start to question globalization, and that leads people to retract inward. So we've seen a lot of protectionism. A lot of countries, it seems like when there's crisis, the easiest thing that there is to do is just protect their borders. And that's what we've seen more and more. In South Africa, we've seen a rethinking of policy. It's been almost 10 years since the National Development Plan. We said that we wanted to create 1 million jobs by 2030. And this was at a time when employment was at about 860. So that means we wanted to double the industry. We are nowhere near that. And so that really tells us, well, was the plan wrong to begin with? Is it an implementation issue? What exactly is the challenge? And I think that's kind of where the thinking is at this point. So what we're sitting in this country in particular is this greater urgency for policy implementation. And one of the policies that we're really looking at, and that I know that government officials and policymakers are very concerned about, is this issue of transformation. And we're going to hear more and more about this as we move towards elections, as we move towards a more competitive political climate. This is the story that people are going to be harping on. And what we're looking here is that if you look at particularly the potato industry, it's not a good story. These are the numbers that the National Agricultural Marketing Council released 2 years, and 2 years ago, ever since they released these numbers, everybody talks about these numbers. Everybody talks about sectors and industries and their commitment to transformation, and they look at these numbers. So this is something that you need to bear in mind as you communicate with policymakers, and they ask you, well, what are you doing to promote our policy objectives? These are the numbers that they're looking at. The other thing is about an uncertain global economy, with China and India being the new superpowers. They're creating their own rules, and we've started to see how they're impacting countries like New Zealand and Australia. But also this thing of the informal economy, particularly in countries like China and Nigeria, make it very difficult for us to measure performance, for us to really look at which markets are lucrative from a growth and income point of view. And that makes the work of our work as economists very, very difficult, because it's very, very hard to predict and to try and rely on data when a lot of it is happening in the informal market. And I can imagine that that is probably the conundrum that you're going to be faced with. So we're not formalizing in any way. Instead, the informal market is coming into the fold, and we need to find ways to deal with it. The last thing that I want to talk about change is about the fact that changes that have been creeping on for the last 10 years suddenly seem to come with a storm. So where we saw digital fresh produce markets and direct channels to consumers being like a niche thing, we saw it go mainstream during the pandemic. We saw a few ag tech companies start to disrupt this space, not in a small way, but in a big way. And they're showing that they can disrupt this. So if you're looking at sales and distributions, I know that we traditionally look at the national fresh produce market, but we need to understand that there is serious room for disruption then. What does that mean for your business? In terms of the road ahead, I see like I'm almost out of time. In terms of the road ahead, there are a few driving factors. Firstly, the macroeconomy, the consumer, and the policy environment. I'm just going to talk about what I expect just over the short term in terms of each of these factors. On the macroeconomy, the National Treasury forecasts GDP growth of 3.3% this year. We know that they're always very, very optimistic, so I'm going to take that with a pinch of salt. And this is coming from a very, very low base. So what we can infer from this is that we are basically sitting in an economy that is stagnant. We're not creating jobs. We are not going to grow robustly. And that has implications, of course, for employment and for household incomes, which speaks to consumers, which are ultimately the consumers of the products that we work with here. In terms of the consumer, we've been seeing that the producer price index for agriculture has been creeping up. And so this ultimately means that it will have to start to filter into CPI and CPI for food, but ultimately the consumer has no capacity to absorb this. So we know that food prices are likely going to rise, unemployment is still where it is, household incomes are constrained. So you are dealing this year with a very, very constrained consumer that is absolutely going to make decisions that are going to stretch that rand. It is not like, the boom days. So this is a very, very picky consumer that we're dealing with. And then lastly, the policy environment. What I want to emphasize here is the fact that we need to remember that we are going into an election cycle. And those of us who've been in this sector for a long time know that as we go through these cycles, there tends to be a lot of noise about certain issues, land, transformation, and not that they're not important, but I find that we tend to blow these out of proportion and absolutely panic and make decisions that are detrimental to investment in our businesses. What I want to caution you about is that let us objectively look at risk in terms of the policy environment, but also taking into account that there are political factors at play, so that we can't be too reactive to what is said in the political front, and that we really just need to kind of stay the course. We can expect a lot of noise, but I do know that industry associations and farm, we tend to really kind of panic when we hear people start to threaten our property. That is going to happen over the next 2 years or so. So let's be prepared for it, but also understand that the constitution that we currently work with, the frameworks remain solid, and it's going to take a very, very long process for anything to change. So, yeah. That's really what I wanted to discuss today. That is largely what I see on the other side of this small dark tunnel. It is a great green shrubbery, but I think there are some things in there that we need to be careful about. But ultimately, I think it is a good story. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Tabi. Give her a round of applause. I guess we just have to figure out which tunnel, are we going to go into. We're going to need tunnel vision, whether we like it or not, to make it through to the other end. And now that you've already touched on our theme for today, which we're going to hear more about when we are being addressed a bit later on, when hope whispers. And I'm sure for our media guys, that's going to speak to your notes. That's our hashtag. So we will be told more about that, how we got to that theme. So true to its central theme, resilience and optimism, hashtag when hope whispers, is not only the focus of the state of the potato industry address, what we're going to be here about, but it's really going to give us a sense of what this industry has been able to achieve in the past, what this industry can do under these difficult circumstances, and how we can use the energy and character of this plant that we're talking about, this root, potato, to sort of like inspire ourselves to realize that is, as I kept on saying, the potato is getting the attention that it deserves in all forms, and it's got great potential. It's been doing well, for years and holding us together in so many ways. So let me just share a little bit of facts. I'm very sad that the chef in the kitchen didn't throw in some potatoes on my plate this morning. I really was looking forward to it. You too. Yeah, I'm not the only one, And then for the last 2 days, I've been bonding with potatoes. I was looking for them everywhere on restaurants' tables. Immaculate will tell you, I was so excited when she was explaining what, Potato South Africa does. I was like, I can't wait to tell everybody about potatoes, and I really mean that. And I started Googling. I'm on the other side of 35, so everything I eat needs to make sense. I was like, so I can use potatoes, for I can use them for my skin. I can put them for use them for round. I don't have them, so I don't even remember what they're called. Rings around your eyes? Is that what you say? Dark marks. Yes. And I was like, this is so cool. But more than anything else, they are high on carbohydrates, naturally free of fat, low in sodium. They are high in mineral chromium. Potatoes have the highest level of potassium. So, us ladies, we're looking for anything that will increase collagen growth in your body, right? Right, Madeleine? Yeah, we're looking for it everywhere. If we're not taking in the collagen pills, we're looking for food that will reactivate it. And I was like, this is it. So that's what it speaks to. Obviously, we all know about its versatility. And the Heart and Stroke Foundation of South Africa says it's an ideal food to include in heart-healthy diet. And I must say, as a mom, I do a lot with potatoes. Kids and you know what I mean? It's just that you put it in the oven, bake it, fry it, crisp it. It's just, and I was like, this is it. That's what this potato is all about. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of time to enjoy your breakfast, and we will get to the main conversation of why we are here today. Maybe we'll have a little video, because I see there's still food on some of my speakers' plates, and I don't want to, So we'll just a little video for 5 minutes, and then I'll come back and introduce them. Thank you.
We need to tackle all the food insecurity and nutrition dimensions of this crisis. Addressing the COVID-19 crisis requires us to work together across sectors and borders, the immediate impacts, and to reshape food systems so they support healthy diets for all. For most people, a potato is simply food on a dinner plate. For millions of farmers, it's a vital source of income. In 2020, South African farmers planted potatoes on approximately 51,000 hectares, produced a total crop of 2.6 million tons, and delivered 263 million 10-kilogram pockets of potatoes. 2020 was a year like no other. But how? How did potato producers navigate these challenges? Rising input costs, erratic weather conditions due to climate change, and overall uncertainty brought about by COVID-19. How did the producers overcome these challenges to deliver on their promise of food security? We turn to Johan Holzhausen, a potato farmer from Leidenburg in Mpumalanga, to find out his thoughts, feelings, and approach to business when the president declared a national state of disaster in South Africa.
Initially, we did not fully anticipate the full impact of lockdown level 5. For example, due to the fact that potatoes are a crop that utilizes a lot of labor in its production and especially harvesting, and as well as the fact that we are unable to mechanize due to our soil type, we had to double our resources in order just to get the labor on the farm in order to harvest our crop. So transport in essence had a huge impact on our production. Then if you look at inputs as well as parts, which were very difficult to procure due to the fact that transport system basically came to a standstill. firstly, do not underestimate the impact of the disease, COVID-19 in itself. It's got a huge social impacts which affects our target market with regards to potato production. Due to the fact that we farm in a very remote area, we did not have any, or we only had one COVID-19 case on the farm. So we tend to underestimate the disease's ability to spread. And we took the approach, or a conservative approach with regards to our crop production on the farm. Everything is done by means of contract production to ensure our market and ensure that whatever we farm gets sold. I grew up on a potato farm, and the love for potato production caused me to farm potatoes as well. Each production season differs with regards to challenges that's thrown your way, and we rise to the challenge with passionately, and we are proud of the product and the quality of the product that we produce. We hope South Africans love eating the potatoes that we produce as much as we love producing it.
At the core of everything potato producers do is an innate need to provide South Africans with a superior fresh quality product all year round. All this for the industry's main stakeholder, the consumer. South Africans were faced with a stark reality in 2020, with the economic threat to their families, food scarcity, and a steep rise in demand.
Nutritious, joint potato nation, joint potato nation.
Wow, thank you guys. Thank you so much. I just need to put on the record that that is a Potatoes South Africa song. We produced it around, I think, 2008, 2009. So as we unveil the state of the potato industry address this morning, I thought it is befitting to play the song, and hopefully our song will be entered into the summers through the help of the media. And yeah, thank you to the Pansula dancers. Now is the time that we've all been waiting for. My duty is to introduce our CEO, Mr. Willie Jacobs. And in so doing, I'd like to say that I stumbled onto a quote on leadership, and I think this really truly talks to who Vili is. The true mark of a leader is the willingness to stick with a bold course of action, an unconventional business strategy, a unique product development roadmap, a controversial marketing campaign. This will be, I think. Even as the rest of the world wonders why we are not marching in step with the status quo. In other words, real leaders are happy to zig while others zag. They understand that in an era of hyper-competition and non-stop disruption, the only way to stand out from the crowd is to stand for something special. To us potatoes, South Africa, the potato industry, the producers, Sophia is something special. It's a story of hope, fortitude, and resilience. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as I call on stage Potatoes South Africa Chief Executive, Mr. Vili Jacobs. Woohoo!
Thank you, Immaculate, for the introduction. What a pleasure to be here. 31 December 2019. That's the day that the world as we know it changed. According to the World Health Organization, the first reported case of the current outbreak of COVID-19 was reported in Wuhan, in China, on New Year's Eve. Little did we know it would really be a new year. A year like nothing other, that ushered in the dawn of a new dispensation. Fast forward to 27 March 2020, when a national South African lockdown was announced for 21 days. Today is exactly 1 year, 1 month, and 9 days since the start of the lockdown. That is 384 days longer than what we initially forecasted. As we gather here today in my midst and virtually from all the corners of the world, 5 May 2021 marks day 405 of the South African national lockdown. What NASA has described as a little cough or a conspiracy ended up with South Africa's economy losing about 2.2 million jobs. In the second quarter of 2020 during the country's coronavirus lockdown. Don't even get me started about over 3 million COVID-related deaths worldwide, with around 55,000 such deaths emerging from our loved ones, friends, colleagues, fellow compatriots of our beloved South Africa. Inasmuch as the current and future generations will never forget New Year's Eve, 31 December 2019, for being the day that allegedly started it all, Africans will never forget Valentine's Day, 14 February 2020. For that was the first time it was believed that the first case of COVID-19 was reported on the African continent in Egypt. Ladies and gentlemen, I put it to you that today is a day that future generations, yet unborn within us, will never forget. Unbeknown to you, you are sitting in what is unfolding of a new chapter in not just the South African potato industry, but for the African diaspora. This is a day that our future selves will envision in our highest dreams. This is the day hope whispered against all odds, and we took up arms and united and answered the call. This is no ordinary day for a typical inaugural event for the sake of ticking boxes. 5 May 2021 is a day history will remember for the rewriting of the trajectory of history, for this industry, and your presence today is significant. It cannot be business as usual. Today really is a game changer. Stay put to find out why. Honorable Dr. Brylin Chisunge, Farmer Brylin, Pan-African Parliament's Ambassador for Food Security in Africa, esteemed Speaker and economist Tabi Nkosi, Chairman of the Potatoes South Africa, J.F. van der Merwe, and board members present, Register of the Agriculture Produce Agency Council, Frans van Knowles, Trustee of the Potato Industry Development Trust, Dion van Zyl, beloved potato producers without whom we would not be here, treasured constituents within our entire value chain, from producers, distributors, formal and informal traders, to our invaluable potato consumers. Senior government officials represented in this gathering. Brylin, again, it's you again. Councils, market agencies, unions, buyers and traders, health and nutritionists, chefs and foodies, friends, mentors, sponsored, and affiliates of Potato South Africa, fellow colleagues of Potato South Africa, members of local and national international press in the midst and virtually, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. I would like to personally welcome each one of you in my midst and those watching online. This hybrid event is themed #WinHopeWhispers because in the midst of one of the vastest global pandemics in this era, right here in the midst of what seemed like a catastrophe, a yet untold story emerged. We heard it like a seed. We saw it grow to the point that its roots grew deep enough to spread and emerge from the ashes. Despite the rising input cost, unstable weather conditions resulted from climate change, and the overall uncertainty brought by COVID-19, approximately 570 South African potato farmers across 16 production regions still managed to press on to produce fresh potatoes 12 months a year. In 2020, South African farmers planted potatoes in approximately 51,000 hectares, produced a total crop of 2.6 million tons, and delivered 263 million 10-kilogram pockets of potatoes. As an industry, I'm pleased to announce that our per capita consumption has doubled in the last decade, and we are argued to be one of the most efficient users of resources. The South African potato industry is self-sufficient in fresh potatoes, even exporting to the SADC region. Why is the potato industry significant, you may ask? I will respond in the words of Daniel Webster, which stated that when tillage begins, other arts follow. The farmers therefore are the founders of the human civilization. Hope in times of famine. The potato industry's impact is not only of interest to the agricultural sphere, but overlaps to contribute towards the sustenance of life itself. It pushes towards contributing to the United Nations Millennium Development Goals to eradicate extreme poverty and hunger. On 28 May 2020, the annual World Hunger Day created by the Hunger Project revealed that more than 690 million people were living in chronic hunger during an unprecedented global crisis. Furthermore, it's disturbing to learn that 60% of the world's hungry are women. The spread of COVID-19 meant that 265 million people were at risk of facing severe food insecurity or famine. One cannot underplay the role fruit and vegetables can play. So much so that the United Nations General Assembly designated 2021 as the International Year of Fruit and Vegetables. This was done to raise awareness, direct policy, and change good practices on the nutritional health benefits of fruit and vegetable consumption. The other goal is to highlight the contribution of fruit and vegetable consumption to the promotion of diversified, balanced, healthy diets and lifestyles, and to reduce loss and waste of fruit and vegetables. Nutrition, affordability, and accessibility are crucial to aiding food security. And I am pleased to inform you that potatoes meet all these requirements. We're not just part of an industry with a wide value chain founded on producers, distributors, formal and informal traders and customers. We are here to raise an ode to the South Africa's #1 vegetable and the global 4th most significant food crop after maize, wheat and rice. Hope in times of crisis. According to an article published on 10 July 2020 by the National Institute of Communicable Diseases, a division of the National Health Laboratory Services, the COVID-19 pandemic continues to cause global health crisis. It is expected to be with us for long. In South Africa, the country's health system, as a result, has since taken a toll due to the number of hospitalized COVID-19 patients needing care. Authors Lucille Bloomberg, Wasila Yassat, Mark Mendelson, and Cheryl Cohen respectively discussed the need to prioritize and protect the South African vulnerable population in an article published in the South African titled The COVID-19 Crisis in South Africa. Protecting the vulnerable. A key highlight from the authors is that personal protection is key. Furthermore, persons with comorbidities need to work with their healthcare providers to optimize and to control their illness. Last year, we watched how healthcare systems across the world collapsed. It was common to see visuals of patients overflowing the streets on stretchers, in makeshift tents, and even bodies piling. At some point, there was an alleged story that received global coverage regarding the major anticipated COVID-19 spike in South Africa. As a news reporter, Nicholas Ryman, wrote in an article for Forbes that was published on 8 July 2020, South Africa's most populated province, which includes cities like Johannesburg and Pretoria, is preparing for some 1.5 million grave sites for potential mass burials. Its top health official says as coronavirus cases in the country begin to spike. Unfortunately, 2020 came and went with no COVID-19 vaccines in South Africa. To date, as stats released a few days ago, almost 293,000 people in South Africa were fully vaccinated. This accounts for a mere 0.5% of the population being vaccinated. So for many of us, the question of how to support a stronger immune system will resound. And believe it or not, even then potatoes rise to the occasion. Hope for taste, versatility, value for money, and better health and nutrition. In addition to regular hand washing, sanitizing, social distancing, and the wearing of masks to reduce the risk of illness and disease, Claire Jolsing-Strydom, a registered dietitian, declared that there's a lot we can do to strengthen our body's natural ability to fight off illnesses by supporting a healthy immune system. She compares our immune system to an army of soldiers always ready to defend in the battlefield. The immune system's body's natural defense working 24/7 to protect our body from diseases and infection caused by invading viruses, bacteria, and other germs. Like soldiers who have to have a range of protective equipment and tools like rifles and tanks and grenades, if these germs do get into the body, the immune system uses white blood cells, proteins, tissue, and organs like the skin to back up the immune system and attack the intruder. Did you know potatoes contain some of the immune supporting nutrients such as vitamin B6, vitamin B9, copper, iron, magnesium and zinc? Potatoes also have calcium, iodine, phosphorus and manganese to offer up a full dose of nutrients important for the body. Extensive work was done by Potato South Africa to an extent that the Heart and Stroke Foundation of South Africa endorsed potatoes as heart healthy. When consumed as a carbohydrate with its skin on, baked, boiled or grilled in quality ingredients. Potatoes are not just tasty, versatile spuds, but can form part of a heart healthy diet. Best of all, they offer significant value for money. Hope in times of an unprecedented labour market crisis. The International Labour Organization described the year 2020 as a year of an unprecedented major labour crisis. According to their analysis, the labour market impact of COVID-19 by the International Labour Organization as published in January 2021 as follows. The COVID-19 pandemic and the resulting lockdown caused 114 million people to lose their jobs over 2020. The International Labour Organization estimates working hours lost in 2020 were equivalent to 255 million full-time jobs, leading to $3.7 trillion worth of loss in income. Although millions have returned to work, the International Labour Organization does not expect global working hours to return to pre-COVID levels in 2021. Guy Ryder, Director General of the International Labour Organization, is quoted at the start of the 2021 saying, "The signs of the recovery we see are encouraging, but they are fragile and highly uncertain. And we must remember, no country or group can recover alone." We as Potato South Africa could not agree more. We cannot do it alone. Potatoes are not just sustenance, a tasty, versatile and convenient food source, but the South African potato industry employs 50,000 to 60,000 temporary and permanent employees in South Africa. Like many parts of the world, South Africa has a high unemployment rate. It is comforting to note that when you buy local produced potatoes, you are helping to ensure that there are families who can go to bed with food in their stomachs. Support local growers. Your contribution makes all the difference. For the second quarter of 2020, South African stats reported that the farming sector, along with the forestry and fisheries, was a positive contributor to the GDP, adding about 15.1% growth, while the economy contracted by 51% quarter to quarter. In addition, the sector's above average quarter two performance, providing hope where the economy's heft was wholly lacking because of the lash of the lockdown. It's worth noting that the potato production heralds 50% of the current vegetable crops, yielding 6.6 billion rand for the South African economy and turning over about 12 billion rand. Hope against hope. If ever there was a time to press on like never before towards the attainment of Potato South Africa's strategic mission, together towards excellence in the potato industry, it is now. We, by our presence here today at this inaugural State of the Potato Industry address, do declare that the time to operate in silos is no more. We simply cannot do it on our own and need all of us to rise to the occasion. Hinged on Potato South Africa's core business of market development, generic product promotion, research and development, industry information and transformation, we cannot and will not slow down in the pursuit of fostering strong connection and bridging the gap between producers and all members of the value chain. To say 2021 was an unprecedented year filled with challenges is an understatement. You may have seen our videos and our media releases showcasing grassroots interactions with farmers, informal traders, dietitians, and potato consumers to garner their views on 2020. Each faced untold challenges. Take, for example, how in 2020, for mainly the first few weeks in the national lockdown, the informal sector, which accounts for the trade of 66% of potatoes at national fresh produce markets, were restricted from trading. Yet even in such challenges, we saw hope arising as the resilience of the potato farming family anchored deep. We saw technology play a great role in the industry. We saw our farmers and farm workers in the relentless pursuit in feeding the nation. We still saw the industry playing a part in imparting knowledge and cutting-edge research, skills training, paying for bursaries, consumer awareness campaigns, played a role in the development of technologies to bridge the gap between farmers and consumers. Among the top lessons we have learned, we can and will rise above the challenges of the present and unknowns of the future if we stand together. In your hands, something, albeit time, mentorship, promoting awareness, and whatever other resources that you can offer to partner with us to make an evergreen impact on our industry. Now is not the time to be faint-hearted or to lose faith. Our arms are stretched wide open. Make no mistake, the potato industry as a whole took a knock, but all is definitely not lost. Here we are, ready to listen, learn, engage, network, and inspire hope. We are here for you in person and virtually. We are also available on social media and hope you will engage with us on Instagram potatoes_ZA, Facebook @potatoesZA caps, and Twitter potatoes_ZA. We are reaching out to you on screens and covering base on the ground. Visit our corporate website www.potatoes.co.za and our consumer website www.potatonation.co.za. Give us feedback on our radio, television, and digital ads. Tell us about you and how we can serve you in a love language that you understand. Yes, Potato South Africa is a non-profit company under the Companies Act, whose main objective is including serving as the mouthpiece of the South African potato industry. Yet even beyond our statutory mandate, we want to connect with you and forge a real heart-to-heart connection founded on our common appreciation of South African farmers and potatoes. Will you join us in answering the call for hope? Your fellow countrymen and women are depending on you. No skill is too small. No light is too dim. Here we are, at your service. We need you. South Africa needs you. Africa is calling. Will you please rise up in a time as this? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Really there, give him a round of applause, the CEO of the Potato South Africa. Of course, talking to us about the state of the potato industry. I hope everyone takes on the challenge and really get to be part of the great work that lies ahead with what you're doing as an entity. And I'm sure everyone who's in this room will take that message with them. And talking about the messaging for the media, all that information will be available in your press pack. That's firstly, you're going to get the press release and covering the value chain of from the farm to fork in terms of like, what the potatoes that we end up with on our tables, what they go through. And then you'll also get the report for the state of the potato industry address that Vili just shared with us. And some nice things as well in the press pack that you guys will be getting a little bit later on. I think Mbali and her team will be sharing that. Yes, ma'am. Ah, okay. There you have it. So what's going to happen now, there will be a press conference as well a little bit later on if you have some questions for members of the press that you will be asking Vili, Jacobs, and the rest of the team to find out more information in regards to whatever you guys, how you're covering the story for your publications or your TV stations. So that's that. I think it's been really a great, informative. There's something special coming? Okay, I'll wait. I shall wait. Oh. Okay, so I should call Madeleine to come and do the vote of. Oh, it's for the. Okay. Who's that for? Oh, Immaculate, you must come here. Yeah. You have the mic.
We've come to the end of our inaugural State of the Potato Industry address. I just want to say thank you, Bayadangi, Bonga, for taking time out to share this special occasion with us. It's been a labor of love, a labor of passion, and I honestly, truly, you walk out of this State of the Potato Industry address having a better understanding, more knowledge, and insights about who we are. Our mission is to get us towards excellence in the potato industry. We wouldn't be here without our valued potato producers, the transporters, the farm workers. And we always say, to consumers and the general public, a potato is a brown thing on a plate that can be sexy, that can be baked, boiled, and prepared in many ways. But for the farmer, it is a significant source of income. And for the farm workers, it is a significant source of income. Our informal traders, who account for 66% of all potato sales that are sold at national fresh produce markets, are not only distributors of our product, but they are people who have created to contribute towards curbing unemployment in our country. During COVID-19, we all know that our unemployment figures went sky high. So I think it is for us to say salute to all the informal traders that make a difference in making sure there's food security and employment. But without wasting time, I would also like to thank our esteemed speakers. And at this point, I'd like to call Farmer Dr. Brylan Chizunge. We have something small as a token of our appreciation. We want to say thank you so much. Thank you for the brilliant speech, the words that you've shared with us today. We hope that this is the beginning of many more and powerful engagements to take place between ourselves as an industry and yourself. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I hope it's a potato-infused wine in there and, and some leaves of potatoes there. Thank you so much. Very touched by what the CEO said, and I think it's important, your words, to say we need to rise to the challenge and to work together. I'm here and I'm always ready. I'm your ambassador, so I'm here. So there's hope, and the time to act is now. Thank you very much once again, everyone. Thank you.
Ms. Tabi Nkosi, it's always such a marvel listening to you. I'm not an economist at all. I think I don't understand economics, but when I listen to you, it's like music to the ear. Thank you for the beautiful and very insightful presentation. Thank you for your time. I hope we can start a journey of sharing information, intelligence, and working together with you as we propel the potato industry to excellence. To our Master of Ceremonies, Penny Lebiane. Yes. Ke lebogile kudu, 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 kudu.
Oh,
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
For doing this for the potato industry. I think you did an excellent job.
Thank you.
Your excitement came through, and I know from day one when we spoke potatoes, you were like, what? Is that the potato industry is all about? And I was like, yeah, we are that important. So thank you for the work that you've put out today and taking time out to share this special day with us.
Oh, I normally get gifts after the fact, so I'm confused. Yeah, you can put it there. Because I'm thinking, oh, is that for me or for someone else? Okay, thank you so much. A round of applause to all our speakers. As I said to the members of the press, you will get the press release in your paper bags. And of course, there will be a press engagement with Willie, who is the CEO of Potato South Africa, I think to spread the information. I really, really am honored and humbled to be part of this, and I hope that I've added value to this event, and I'm looking forward to many more. I am blessed with an opportunity to always be part of things when they start. So I understand the concept of farm to fork, ground to gut, seed to, planting time and harvesting time. So I'm with you guys as well, and I'm hoping that we can spread the message and the information. And I think, there's no better time like this one because we live in a world of instant gratification, and I think farming or growing things is probably one of the best ways that we can teach our children about the process of waiting and the process of life. And I think we should be able to take advantage of that. I try to plant a few things in my backyard. I work with Africa Tycoon. We teach kids and people in urban areas to plant a few things because, as you correctly said, during this pandemic, we realized that we're all interconnected in one way or the other. When there was no ginger, everybody realized that ginger is important. And then those who had spinach in their backyards, they appreciated. And those who had potatoes and beans and everything else, when you couldn't go to the shops because it was too packed and you were afraid of, infections and things like that, you could pick something, from your backyard. And all of those things. And I think other countries really take pride in advocating for certain vegetables or fruits. And I think the concept of us being a potato nation is something that we really need to drive as a country because, not just because it's good for nutritionally, but the resilience of this industry is part of a reflection of who we are as a country. I mean, that 1%, I saw what Tabi showed. That's great. Maize is doing well. We need to bum it off. I mean, really, don't worry about the others in between. Just bum off the maize at the top there and make us a potato nation. And in any case, I mean, I don't know when last I ate mealie meal. I'm just not interested. But potatoes, I think we could have a relationship. So that's how it is, guys. Have a great day further. Spread the word. Hashtag When Hope Whispers, as well as Potato SA on Twitter, and then Potato_SA on Instagram. Please follow me as well, Vili. It's Penny Lebiani, okay? Yeah. I'm going to post you there on my Instagram page. How many followers do you have? How many followers do you have? You don't? I mean, I have over 100,000 followers. I should have. So let's get going. Thank you so much. I'm just teasing. Okay, everybody have a great day further and enjoy yourselves. Thank you.